How is it that we sometimes get so invested in our own beliefs that even when we're confronted with evidence to the contrary, we still stubbornly hold on to our point of view? And how can we cut through the BS so we can be more effective coming from truth? That's what we're going to take a look at today. Coming up. Welcome to the Power of Quiet, helping you get in touch with the real you, that part of you that is full of love and happiness, peace and imperturbability, and has no limitation. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification, because on this channel, we don't just talk about it, we actually show you how to do it. Now, we are living in a crazy, insane world right now. And one of the crazy things that we can witness that's going on is how the mass media lies, how they push an agenda, a narrative, and even when they're confronted with evidence to the contrary, do they say, whoops, we got it wrong? No. They try to ignore it and shift the conversation to something else. Or they go as far as to double down onto their narrative, go so deep into it, they literally look like lunatics. So what's going on here? What can we learn about the world? And more importantly, what can we learn about ourselves and how we hold on to beliefs even after they're proven false? Now, a good way of describing what's going on is something that I heard that Eckhart Tolle talked about. And this is something I heard secondhand, so this is just my interpretation of it. And that is, when we come into this world, when we're a baby, and we're given a blankie, a teddy bear, a pacifier, we identify with it as being us. This blankie I'm holding on to, this is me. And what happens is that when now the parent comes along, and that pulls the blankie, pulls a pacifier away, we scream out in bloody murder, like we are literally being ripped apart. Why? Because we're identifying with it. We think that that thing is us and it's being taken away, so we're crying out in pain. Now, as we grow up, we start to identify with more sophisticated toys. So now we have our toys, our G.I. Joes, our bicycles, and so on. And we identify with these too. And we place our value on how many toys we have, how nice they are, and that reflects on us. Now, as we continue to grow, we get more sophisticated in what we identify with and hold on to. These become now our ideas. So now we have an idea or a belief. And when somebody comes along and challenges us, we go nuts. Why? Someone's just presenting a different point of view. But we are so identified with our point of view that when somebody challenges us, we react as though we're being attacked, that we are being killed with words. You see how crazy this is? And it's just an idea. So what's the solution? What's the answer here? To become detached from our beliefs. Now, to be detached, it doesn't mean that we give them up necessarily. It doesn't mean that we become complacent or even apathetic and let the world run over us. No. To be detached has some key benefits. Let me share those with you here. The first benefit of being detached is we get our feelings out of the way. Because notice, some of our beliefs we feel very strongly about. And when we get challenged about them, when we get in an argument about them, these feelings come up. anger, frustration, fear. We get reactive, right? Now, when we become detached, we could still have that thought, that point of view, but we don't have to fight through our feelings, because that's what happens when our feelings come up. Now we're trying to deal with a situation, have a conversation, but we feel frustrated and our feelings take over. We're fighting with our feelings, and to that degree, we're not effective with that point of view, right? So that's the first benefit, is we just get our feelings out of the way so we can speak freely, act freely. Now, the second benefit of being detached is we become more open to another person's point of view. We allow ourselves to see things from someone else's eyes. Now, when we become so invested and identified with our beliefs, it's like, that's it. That's the only way it can be. It's my way or the highway. And look at what we do when we do this. We close ourselves off. We become disconnected. We separate ourselves. It's an us versus them mentality. But when we let that go, we just come from a place of detachment. The big benefit here is that we expand our thinking. We expand our consciousness. We're looking at things from different angles. And we allow ourselves to connect with somebody else, even if they have a completely opposite opinion. We still treat them like they're human, like they're valid. And we allow ourselves to see things as they do. And that is a very loving thing to do. And also when we do that, we can become much more effective because we know what their point of view is. We know how they think. And if we want to maybe show them a different point of view, we can be much more effective because we know where they're coming from. It's much easier to do that. And finally, a third reason to be detached is to recognize that our thinking, our beliefs do change. And the fact that they change, that they can evolve, shows how real they are, how truthful they are. I mean, there are certain thoughts and beliefs that we see, and that's just true. But there's also another point of view, and that could equally be true. And we see in ourselves that we think and believe a certain way, but over time, those beliefs can change. Now, how real can it be if it changes? If something changes, then either it wasn't true before because it changes, or it's not true afterwards because it changes. And doing this, looking at it this way, allows us to become more flexible with our thinking. We don't have to be so rigid, seeing things only through a single thought or a single point of view. And therefore, we become less of a slave to our own thinking. We just watch our thoughts come and go. And if they work for us, we could use them. If they don't, we let them go. And this brings us into a greater consciousness of freedom. And this is something that we can experience here. So, here's the big question. How do you become detached? What I'm going to do now is take you through a very simple, basic exercise that'll just show you how to just detach a bit so you can free yourself. And at the same time, be more clear, be more powerful, and be more effective in what you choose to do. All right? So check this out. Follow along here. All right, so think about a belief that you have, especially a belief that you feel very strongly about. You got something in mind? Especially something that you see others with a different point of view and they're wrong. In fact, they're so wrong that if they have their way, that would be bad. All right? You got something in mind? Chances are you do, right? Now, when you think about this belief, especially when you think about the situation when others are challenging you and others can possibly have their way over you, what I want you to do is just close your eyes for a moment and bring your focus to your stomach or chest. And if it helps you, you can put your head down so you can direct your attention here. And here's what I want you to do, is when you think about this belief and the situation with others, believe in another way, notice if you have a tightness or a contraction that shows up in your stomach or chest right now. Sort of a clenching feeling. You feel something like that? And what that is, that clenching feeling, that contraction, that's your body letting you know that you're fighting with your feelings. You're pushing down your feelings. You're suppressing them. And that's not natural. That's why it feels kind of uncomfortable. Kind of ugh, right? Now here's what I want you to do. Just open up an imaginary window or door right in front of that contraction, that tightness, wherever it is that you feel it, in your stomach or chest. Just open up an imaginary door and imagine that energy now going right on out that door. Just allow it to pass through. And just allow it to leave. And you can visualize it any way you choose. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It could look like smoke. It could look like light. Or it could even look like bubbles coming out. Whatever. Just imagine that energy. That contraction just going right on out that door. And allow it to leave even more. It's just energy passing through. That's all. Just energy. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just energy passing through. And allow it to leave even more. Just open up even more. And just let that energy go. And even more. And even more. And even more. And notice how that feels. Notice if you feel a little bit lighter. Notice if it feels more open, more easy. You feel that difference? You feel how nice it feels? And see, this is you now moving from a place of being walled off, of being kind of stuck, and instead being more open, more clear. And notice how you don't necessarily need to abandon your point of view. You're just not so stirred up by it. And in this place of clarity, you can think, you could even act and speak out with clarity, with conviction, without being reactive. Just notice. Just notice if you feel more capable, more positive about the situation. All right? Now, also, notice if you're disapproving of the other one or the other one's point of view. And notice also, you may be identifying that other person by their point of view. Like, oh, that person is a leftist, or that person is right-wing, or that person is this or that, or whatever. Because of a thought or a belief that they have, now you're associated with that person and saying, oh, that's a bad person. They're not necessarily a bad person. They may have some beliefs or thinking, but if we're coming from a position of detachment, we're detaching ourselves, but at the same time, we're also detaching the other from their point of view. And notice how much more effective we can be in communicating with this other person when we kind of take that identification and who they are out of the picture. We can speak more objectively and maybe come to an agreement. All right? Now I'll show you what this is like. Just take a look to see if you're disapproving of this person or their point of view. You don't like them, or you don't like it. Now, when you're disapproving of them, does that help anything? Does that help them? Does that help you by beating them up? Or is it just creating negativity? It doesn't help anybody, does it? So just try this out. Could you let go of disapproving of this person just a little bit? Just for the sake of goodness. Just for the sake of love. Could you let go of disapproving of this person? Even if you don't agree with them, could you let go of disapproving of them? Because again, how does negativity help anything? And notice, who's doing it? You're doing it, right? And if you're doing it, and it doesn't help anything, now it's just a decision. I'm just going to be loving, or I'm going to be hateful. Which do you choose? Or could you let go disapproving of them a little bit more? And could you let go disapproving of them a little bit more? And could you let go disapproving of them even more? And even more. And even more. And even more. And notice how that feels. Just notice if you feel lighter. That's all we're looking for, is just a lighter feeling. And that's not so bad, is it? See, by letting go of the negativity, you are freeing you. Now let's take it a step further. Could you give this person some love and approval? Now, by giving them love and approval, doesn't mean that you have to agree with them. Doesn't mean that you have to let them have their way. Again, it's not identifying the person with their beliefs. It's just a thought. But instead, it's just identifying with them being a being, even just being a human being. And what does love hurt, really? Love is a powerful place. Gandhi proved this. He was someone who practiced love. And instead of fighting with the British, he talked about loving the British, and look at what happened. The British handed over the keys to the country. They gave away this huge country, India. And they even know why. That's how powerful love is. So, could you give this other one some love and approval? Just a little bit. And again, doesn't mean that you have to agree with them. Just love them. And could you give them a little bit more love and approval? And a little bit more. And a little bit more. And a little bit more. And even more. And even more. And even more. Notice how you feel now. See, notice how you feel. You get lighter. You get freer. You get more positive. And this helps you. This helps you with your goals in life. This helps you get through your day without having to fight through your feelings, to be more loving, to be more free. This is expanding your consciousness. And now, when you think about this other one, and you think about their point of view, see if you feel less reactive about it, less closed off, or, need to fight them. Right? You notice a difference? And here's the thing. You're letting go of your feelings. And you're feeling less threatened. This is positive for you. This strengthens you. And now, see, you can have a conversation with the other one. You can even find an agreement. And even if you don't, you still get to be positive because you still get to love the other one just because. You allow them to be exactly as they are and you love them anyway. And notice how good that feels. And it keeps you being positive. So even if you don't get your point across or don't get your way, you still get to play A I win, B I win. Because you move up, and if you're positive, you'll find a solution, right? So anyway, play with this. All of these things that we point out here on this channel are provable. Check them out. Prove them to yourself. And see what happens in your world, in the real world, when you shift your consciousness like this. This is how you make a difference.